Hello and welcome to week 6. I've gotten to this area by clicking on the course content and clicking again to get to week 6. So let's take a look at our overview. Again, our question that we've been looking at each week is what is fair and what is unfair when it comes to educational measurement and tracking student progress? How can you as a teacher align your own assessments with your state standards? And how can we explain test data to parents in a language they'll understand? So what type of student performance data are most useful in instructional planning, as opposed to summative assessments taken at the end of an instructional cycle or program of study? So we want to look at different types of performance assessments and how we can best create them, and something that is an important alternative, the use of portfolios. This week you should be reading Osterhoff chapters 13 and 14, as well as reviewing the work in this area. You need to continue to post to the discussion area. Remember, I gave you an extended time period for the last discussion, being that you were working on the reading scores comparison. And by Monday evening, you need to submit your reading scores comparison. So let's go back and look at the material that's here for you. So I'm going to open up the week 6, and we have a short PowerPoint, very short, and I'll launch that for you here. And this deals with assessment and portfolios. So very briefly, portfolios can also be used as assessment tools, and of course they have advantages and disadvantages. Parents are used to seeing report card grades and standardized test results, and portfolios don't necessarily correlate with that for them. How can a child get an A or B in reading on his report card but only score level 2 on the FCAT? Something to think about. Does this mean that the student's grade was inflated or unreliable? Or did the FCAT assess something other than what was actually taught in the classroom, which would be a question of validity? Now, I know that many of you would say that all your teaching is to the FCAT. So sometimes we might want a portfolio of a child's work, and that will give us a better indicator of what that child knows and is able to do. So let's close that out. And the next area that I put for you also takes you outside the era of Blackboard to an excellent site called the Authentic Assessment Toolbox. And I think you will find this very useful. They talk about standards, tasks, rubrics, portfolios, and give you examples of each of these, as well as information on constructing tests and a lot of valuable information as to authentic assessment and how to use it in your classroom. The next area talks about portfolios for students, and that is found at Teacher Vision, a very good website as well. And this whole section deals with portfolios for students, portfolios for assessment, and there's a lot of areas that you can read about and look at samples and see if this is something that would be helpful to you. And you can see that this website, if you're not familiar with it, has a lot of other information by grade level, subjects, themes, things you can print, graphic organizers, lesson plans, and so forth. So it's a very useful website. And while some things you need to be a member, there are many things that are free to you. Whoops, I went out of that. Let me quickly get back to where I want to be. You'll see how I got there in the first place this way. And the last information is takes you to a compilation of resources, which is one of my favorite sites. We're going outside of Blackboard again, and this is Scoop, and I've re-scooped this into my Scoop, but this is from somebody else. How to create student digital portfolios using Evernote, which is a great free application if you are on a Mac or an iPad, and very useful. So finally, I want to remind you, keep up with your discussions, and you've got to finish your one for April 8th if you haven't done so, and some of you have not. And then we have one due on the 15th, which asks you a series of questions as well. You also, don't forget, have your assignment due this week, and we talked about that in our chat. So you're going to submit your comparison of 3 test scores. Please look at the rubric, follow along, look at the document, and make sure you're doing this in the way that it needs to be done. If you have any questions, let me know, and thank you, and have a wonderful week.